Hey everybody, I'm Monster, and today I'm making a little bit of a different video. I thought it'd be a good idea to do something where, to help younger people out. I'm getting a little bit older now, and I just wanted to give somebody, whoever is out there, a little bit of advice. And one key advice, I'm probably gonna do multiple videos like this that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it's something that I recently really I use it a lot. I think about everything in moderation. I know it's old, very, very old form of advice, but it's something that I think is still true today. The biggest thing I think about, have everything in moderation. It makes life, I guess, more fun. I guess because if you're doing something way, way too much, you don't get the same enjoyment as you would when you're not, you do it every day, but you just do it a small portion every day. I mean, everything has its limits, though. you know Alcohol, that's a big thing that I'm not really a big drinker, and I don't really agree with a lot of, I don't think it's not, definitely not good for you. I don't mean it like that. Like with alcohol, I would say occasionally, you can enjoy something. I'm not really much of a drinker myself, but people who do drink, I don't think it's bad to drink alcohol. I wouldn't like say just stop completely, unless you're like an alcoholic. But the main thing I would think with things like that is just keep thinking to yourself everything in moderation, because too much of anything is really bad for you, especially with things like that. But with alcohol, I would say, occasionally, you can get, drunk and stuff. I would understand that. But if you're doing something like that every single day, just think about how much wear and tear that is on your body. And not with just alcohol, with everything you do. Literally everything you do. A main thing, like a small thing. Let's say you're playing video games. And you're playing video games like 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day. That is not good for you. And I love video games, and it's just doing something too much will affect your health really negatively. And also, if you're doing something way too much, it becomes less fun in general. That's what I've noticed. If you're doing something way too much, you don't get the same amount of enjoyment as doing it. Like, I don't mean occasionally, because there's a different. You want to have a balance with things. Like if you want to play video games, I'd say just do it for maybe a few hours a day if you're addicted to it. I mean, just cut it down. One thing is, if you're addicted to something, or if you're trying to change your life, and it goes with everything, try everything little baby steps at a time. Little baby steps at a time. Just limit it just a little bit. And then each month, just limit it a little bit more, a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, after a few months, or maybe even a year, you won't even recognize yourself. You'll be playing like a little bit, like just put, I think when you're an adult, I think it's a good idea to put constraints on yourself, because your mom and dad, they're probably putting a little bit of constraints on you. They're not letting you run wild and free. And you might not even think about the things that affect you. Like if you're staying up all night, every single night, and you're only getting 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, that's another thing that will highly affect you in life. And that's to do with work. That's to do with school. Like if you're in school right now, like in high school or college, it doesn't really matter, any type of school, and you're only getting 3 hours sleep, and you're not going to be able to pay attention. And I'd say just try to limit the things that you do, because if you're doing something 7, 8 hours a day, or like you're doing like 6 hours a day, you're not going to enjoy it as much as you did when you first started doing it, you know? If when you have something in moderation, you tend to enjoy it a little bit more. If that sounds, I know that probably sounds a little bit weird, but as humans, we, when we do something too much, we adapt to it. And that's with anything, seriously, anything. Like, you could be, like, walking your dog too much, you know? It's not good for you. It'll be walking your dog. It's not good for your dog. You walking them friggin' 100 times a day or 40 times a day or 20 times a day, you know? Just everything in life, literally everything. Everything. And it could go for eating food. That's something that I struggled with my whole life. That's my sort of addiction, is I really like food. And whenever I'm sad and I'm going through a bad time, like I am now, I'm kind of going through a bad time, but, I like to eat food. And I start to just feel hopeless, you know? And something that I did a year ago, where I lost weight. And the way I lost weight was I started to think about everything in moderation. And then I made little changes, little tiny changes every other day. I would just use that part of my day and just think about, if I eat this, there'll be too many calories. And I started counting calories a few months later, and I noticed my weight's starting to go down. Well, I'll probably make a video on weight loss, but I just mean everything in moderation. Seriously, everything. Everything you do, like you get obsessed with things, because I tend to get obsessed with things. I get very interested in something, and then I'll go whole hog all the time, just thinking about it constantly and watching videos about it and extremely interested about it. And then I noticed that thing that I once loved, you get used to it. You start to not enjoy it anymore. And that goes with just about, again, it's just about anything. Like, let's say you like working out. And you're working out constantly. Like, you're working out like a bunch throughout the day, constantly working out, and that's all you think about. Because that's the way I was whenever I was losing weight. All I was thinking about was working out. I need to do this. I need to do this all day. I need to do, 10 push-ups every freaking 2 hours. I used to do that. And then I would, have a bunch of push-ups throughout the day, and that was a good way for me to lose weight. But after weeks and weeks and months of doing that, and then also doing other exercises, I noticed it was getting to be where I was used to it, but it wasn't good for me. Like, my shoulders and elbows would ache. Things would it would ache, And I feel like in a few years, that would really put a damper on my health. Same thing with, like, if you're working. Like, if you're working, no, working is absolutely not bad. It's something that it's an absolutely necessary and everything. But if you're working like 3 jobs and you're working day and night shift and you're working on the weekends, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. You're putting major health concerns, especially, I know nowadays that everything's so expensive and the economy's crap, but I feel like that could be a really big damper in your life. Like, in the long run of things, everybody wants to take advantage of you nowadays and take advantage of your time. Just know that your time is probably the most precious thing you have. Time is worth more than money. And I don't mean that as don't work and not do anything. I just mean, if you can change, your life. And if you have wife and kids, it's different. But if you're single, and because there's a lot of people my age in your 20s that are single and you're working towards something, but the real issue that it comes down to is that when you work towards something too much, like you're working day, night shift, you're working multiple jobs, and you're doing, if you're doing good at that point, like with just one job, if you can work just one job and you're making enough to be where you can afford to live and you can put a little bit of money back, I'd say you're in a good spot in life. But if you're working day and night, constantly all the time, and you're always doing side jobs and side hustles and stuff, and you're just trying to rake in as much money as you can, that's good to do in moderation. Seriously, moderation. If you can, anything like that, moderation. Doing that every day. Think about the amount, especially if you're doing physical things, which is something I learned because I would get obsessed with that stuff. If you're doing something physical, think about your future self. Think about what the type of wear and tear you're doing to your body. And if you're a single guy like me, because I know I'm probably never going to find anyone, in later in life, when you're like 60, even 40, 50, 60 years old, your body will start to kind of break down. The cartilage in your elbows and in your knees, if you're walking all the time and you're standing all the time, and your feet, the amount of surgeries you're going to have to do, and the amount of just wear and tear of your body. And that's what scares me. As a single person, trying to make enough to survive is really difficult nowadays. It really is. And a lot of places don't pay very much, but also your rent's really high. You can't really afford anything. There's a lot of pressure on yourself. And I just wanted to know, if you're going through a situation like that, you're not alone. There's so many people out there that are in the exact same situation. And I think it helps to not beat yourself not beat yourself up too much. There's only so much one person can do. Seriously. No matter, I know there's a lot of boomers out there that will say, you're lazy. You're lazy because you're not making enough to survive and stuff like that. But that's you're not lazy. If you're working towards something, and you have a job, and you just, in the back of your head you call yourself a failure, I just wanted you to know you're not a failure. You're absolutely not a failure. You're just a product of our society right now. Our society has issues. I live in America, by the way. I don't know how it is people over the pond and these small countries, and I know it's a lot worse in other places, but things get hard. Things are really bad right now. And I have high hopes for the future. I feel like things might start to get better, but they're going to have to get worse before it gets better. And looking at life, see, when you do everything in moderation, you're making small little sacrifices and small little judgment calls, and you're basically, you want to plan for the future. And if you're not doing anything right now, and you're stuck, just try to, instead of going whole hog and trying to change your whole entire life all at once, which is not a good idea to do, don't change your life all at once. Don't bite off more than you can chew. That's an old saying, but it's still true today. But what you can do is just do small little changes that can get you to your goal. And that goes with like losing weight. That goes with just turning your life around. Small little changes. Look, it helps to stand back, and instead of like, don't go, woe is me, and life is, I'm just a victim and everything. Don't see yourself as a victim. Look back and objectively look at the problems that you have right now, and just sit back, think about small changes you can make that can get you to that ultimate goal. That's a huge thing, especially when you're younger. And that's a big thing with when you're trying to start life. You think about how things are so big, or like another thing is learning something. Think about it as when you learn something, you learn small pieces of information that adds up to a whole subject. Like with science, with math, I've never been good with that stuff, but I learned if you if you just do small things to work towards something, or you work towards learning something, or you like learning a new language or anything, you learn little words at a time, and you learn your ABCs. When you're young, you learned your ABCs, and you once you got that down pat, you were able to like write down. You learned how to write the actual ABCs. Like in 1, 2, 3s and stuff. You would actually learn how to write it down, and then when you learned how to write it down, then you learned how to spell, like how grammar works, and you learned how to read a little bit, small bits of information, and that all that led up to you knowing how to write and how to read fluently. And then you don't even think about it anymore. You don't even think about how much you've learned, even stuff like that, how much you've learned, you know? Everything. You don't think about your accomplishments. When you're making little changes in life, you might not even think about how big the accomplishments that you're doing, And just think about that. Think about the small changes that you can make to make your life better. And seriously, everything in moderation. Just think like that if you can. That's something, that's a bit of advice it's kind of turned my life around. No matter what problem comes up, no matter what issues you might face, just don't. When I was depressed, what I did was I disassociated, and that's where I just stood back and let life happen. And you got to be careful with doing something like that. When you step back and you let life happen, life just keeps moving on. And seriously, it just keeps trucking. It will not stop. Life keeps going on. As when we're all gone, life will keep trucking on. Time trucks on. And that goes to my first point, was time. You only have a finite amount of time. And we all don't know how much time we have left. Nobody does. And the small changes you make are the best use of time that you can do. Just working towards some sort of goal. Doing something that you wouldn't normally do. Like if you want to go for a hike or go for a walk and you've never gone for a walk. Walk down the block. Like if you're really big, like my mom, she has trouble walking sometimes. And I noticed whenever I started working out, she made little changes. She would get on the little bike thing and she would work out for just a little bit. It was no time at all, but over time she started working out longer and longer and longer. She made little changes, and I'm proud of the way she's gone about it. She's made a lot of progress. And that's something that people start going, woe is me, and it's okay to do that for a little bit. But there comes a time we need to make a change. And no matter what situation it is, you make a small change or two, you can get yourself far ahead of once were. You might not accomplish your goal fully, but if you can get above what you were, and I don't mean above like high and mighty. I just mean if you were in a bad situation and you made your situation better, you feel accomplished. Also, you can look back at that situation, that really bad situation you were in, and if you could tell yourself what to do, you would probably tell them to make small changes. That situation, whatever situation you're in, I mean, it's okay to feel bad about things. I'm not trying to, say don't feel anything and stuff like that. I'm not don't be too hard on yourself is what I mean. Don't be way too hard on yourself. And once you're done processing what's been happening, try to make small, little changes. And then all those small, little changes you make every single day, they add up over time. Seriously. Same thing with making the wrong decisions. If you make the wrong decision every day, you seriously, you're hurting your future if you're making bad decisions every day. You're hurting not just your career, it depends on what it is, but you're not just hurting your career, you're not just hurting your family, you're not just hurting your this anybody you love, your friends. You're hurting yourself and you're putting yourself into a worse situation, and know that that situation that you put yourself in that's worse is going to be harder to get out of. But if you're right now, you're in a really bad situation, just follow those steps to make small decisions that lead up to big ones. And it's something I think about. That's just what I've been thinking about lately. And I've been thinking about small things that I can do. Like, I stopped playing video games so much because I used to be addicted to it. I mean, I play them every single day. I don't mean just stop fully, but I just play them for a lot less. And I noticed a long time ago when I was doing it all the time, I started to not like video games. I was just disliking them and got used to them, and that's not a good thing to happen. So when you used to love something and then you're just sitting there in the home screen and you don't know what to play because you're just kind of sick of everything. Even though they're new games, you just don't want to start something. And then at one point, I was working all the time and I was too tired to do anything. And that was a scary time because I couldn't. I was focusing only on my job. I wasn't focusing on myself. I wasn't taking care of myself. I let myself go way too far with my weight. I was just trying to eat a quick bite to eat to so I can go to bed and just wake up a few hours later and go back to work. And that's not good for you. It seriously isn't. Unless you have a family, and when you have a family, you make sacrifices. That's a different topic. But if you're really trying to accomplish your goal, just know that there's other people out there there's other people out there worse off than you right now. There's people in war torn countries and going through wars, and so step back and think about the good things. That's there might not be a lot of good things, but there's always, just know that things could get a lot worse. And once they do, or once, small changes, again, to get out of things, that small changes make you more resilient. Don't think of it as out of your control, which some things are completely out of your control. But if you make small little changes, or small, not just small changes, small bit of progress. It could be like one thing of progress a month, like a small bit of progress a month on something to get yourself out of the hole that you've been in. And sometimes asking for help if you have family. I know everybody's family's different, and family's not. A lot of people don't have family. But if you can, with friends, don't be afraid to ask for help. And if they say no, then, that's the way it is. If it's too much, don't be mad at them. I mean, unless could have helped you out easily, but then I would probably not be around them. Like if you're drowning or something, and they're a lifeguard and they just don't save you, I'd probably be pretty mad at them. But everything, again, just to wrap everything up, try to think about your situation and think about what you can to get into a better situation, is what I mean. And I know every situation's different. And if you don't have a situation and you're just, you're just living your life like normal. And if a lot of people, they're on their phone too much. That's another thing. You can limit your phone time, because I notice I get like that too. I know everybody gets like that nowadays, where they just constantly checking their messages, or they're constantly looking at their phone to see everything. Think about that. Think about that as, you're doing it too much. Then it becomes less fun, and then you're depending on your phone for your dopamine hits, and then your dopamine hits, you're always having dopamine hits, then nothing else seems fun. Things around you get dull, and then you go into a little bit of a depression. When things get too dull, life gets too dull, a lot of people, they get into this funk. And that funk's hard to get out of. And if you can prevent getting into that funk, and you realize what's happening that's going to get you into that funk, try to, again, little changes. I'm sorry if a lot of this didn't make a lot of sense, but this is a new video idea. I thought just talking to people, and I'm just kind of rambling. This is just a rambling video, but thank you guys for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, just let me know, If there's anyone out there, if I'd said something that was wrong, I'm sorry. I'm no expert in this, just to let you know, I'm no expert. It's just something I have on my mind, Make videos, I'm always thinking. It's kind of in the detriment of myself, but I'm always thinking. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And have the good rest of your day. And thank you for watching my channel. And I hope you enjoyed whatever gameplay I'm putting in the background. I think I might put Vice City or something in the background. I don't know. Or, I've been playing a lot of Vice City and Vice City Story. I played Vice City Stories for the first time. I might put that in the background. I don't know. Well, thank you, everybody. And, goodbye.